Hello, I'm Trent Grable, and welcome to our Tuesday speaker series. Today we have Aaron Pence. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you.
Aaron, why don't you start us off and tell us what it is that you do?
Yeah, so I have multiple roles and jobs, which is pretty awesome. I'm actually sitting in uniform today because of that. I am the public affairs officer for the 122nd Fighter Wing here in Fort Wayne. 16 years in the Air National Guard, some part-time and some full-time. And then I'm also one of the owners and the vice president of sales and marketing for Three Rivers Distilling Company, which is a local craft distillery here at Fort Wayne.
How in the world did you get there?
Yeah, so that's a crazy story. So
Good, we like them.
Yeah, I was a product of September 11th. Surprisingly, I was going to school at Purdue and going for engineering, and September 11th happened, and that with a combination of trying to figure out how to pay for college after the first year, it took me to the military. So I joined the Indiana Air National Guard here in Fort Wayne, just because I loved the F-16s and cool stuff like that, right? Yep. And went in, and like when I graduated from high school, I was not the military guy. I had long hair down to here, I was like
atypical.
Yeah, and it was not what I thought would happen. But went into that, joined up, and kind of college went on the back burner for me, which was crazy because I was so gung ho about it when I originally started. So I did the military service, and ended up taking me to many places, Qatar, Iraq. I served multiple different locations. Throughout my entire career, though, I always had some really good leaders and really good mentors. And so I always knew that it was building up to something else. So I worked as an aircraft maintainer for about 10 years, 2 different jets, F-16s and A-10s. And I went off to what was called the Non-Commissioned Officers Academy. Went down there and ended up winning the Levitt Award, which was the top graduate. It was really cool honor. Came back to Fort Wayne, and we had a semi-new base commander at the time. And he came to me and he says, "Aaron, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "Well,
that's nice.
Yeah, I've worked on jets for about 10 years. I'd like to look at something else." And he goes, "Let's push you in community engagement." As you can see, I enjoy talking with folks, so it was a perfect spot for my skill set. So I went into that, but that also kind of reinvigorated my time to get back into school. So I started going to school back here at Indiana Tech again. Ended up with 2 associate's degrees and a bachelor's degree fairly quickly.
Once I go back to engineering?
No, I didn't. I actually went to business because at this point in time, I was looking for something along the lines of leadership. I knew that I would eventually be leading in some sort of role, but I didn't know where. So I focused on organizational leadership. My 2 associates were in avionics systems and aircraft maintenance technology, so some technical sides. But that whole community engagement piece just made me realize that's where I love to be. That's my niche. So I did that, and the commander, Colonel Augustine, said, "Hey, let's look at commissioning you as an officer." And so I went through that whole process. A little bit late in life, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So at that point, that meant that I lost my full-time job. I had to resign my full-time position with the Air National Guard, and I didn't know what I was going to do. Luckily, the technical degrees that I had received and the leadership training that I had and years of experience that I had, I ended up going to work for BAE Systems here in town. At the time, I went in as a senior process engineer, worked on that for about 3 months, and then they saw my leadership potential and promoted me to what they call an integrated product team lead, or basically an operations manager. And so I ran the military controls team for a couple of years, about 17 different controls, went on military aircraft all over the world, and then picked up another team about halfway through that. So roughly $27 million worth of sales responsibility, all on
like a little bit.
Yeah, just a little piece. In my first job out of the military.
Yeah, not bad. Yeah.
And it was a great experience there. I got to experience big business and see what that was all about. That same base commander that pushed me to the position that I'm at, in the community relations portion. He called me up. He was retiring, and he was being involved in a startup. right? And so Strike Industries was what the name of the company was, and it was business development focused on the defense sector. So very simplified concept of it is you find a small business that's got a cool niche, right, or an emerging technology or something, but they may not have the manpower or the time as you're growing a business to necessarily invest into putting together all of the stuff that it takes to do business with the DoD, and then to actually be able to kick down the doors to the right people to go have that conversation. So I went into that and thoroughly enjoyed the world of entrepreneurship and of a startup. The craziness of it, nothing is the same any day.
It's kind of addictive.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're always doing something different, and one day you're working HR, the next day you're working finance, the next day you're working business development, and you're doing anything. And I had great mentors in that whole time there at Strike. And one of them, a gentleman from the medical device world, it's where most of our funding for Strike came, I had a great conversation with him, and he said, Aaron, he goes, I can pay you, $200,000 a year, and you'll figure out a way to spend your salary. He goes, you truly don't grow your wealth until you invest and until you gain equity. And that always kind of resonated with me. So I started just kind of searching. And lo and behold, two old military members, two old friends of mine, decided to start the first craft distillery in Fort Wayne since Prohibition. Both Indiana Tech grads, which is awesome. One is a contracting guy, and the other one's an accountant. And while they're both absolutely great at what they do, they need someone for sales. They need someone with the gift of gab, right, and to develop relationships. And so
you need customers, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I got into that. They had been going through the legal aspects of setting it all up, but the actual distillery was only up and running for a couple months before I got into it and started doing the sales and marketing development. So all that being said, I ended up I still serve in the military part-time, do that full-time. The military afforded me a new position, so I became an aircraft maintenance officer, commissioned as a maintenance officer. Went on my 4th deployment, spent time in Afghanistan this summer, and then came back home, and now I'm the public affairs officer for the base. So cool. I get a chance to move around and see some different spots there on the base.
It's almost as if you didn't pick out one career trajectory. It's almost as if you had two in tandem, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of a unique situation to be in.
Especially for an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
So one of the biggest challenges for an entrepreneur coming out the gate is all the benefits, right? All the other stuff that would normally come with a large company. So where am I going to get my health insurance from? Man, now I got to shop all these health insurance plans if I'm going to provide that to my employees and all that craziness. Well, the nice thing about the Guard is, one, I have benefits. I know what my benefits are, and so that allows me to be more flexible with my entrepreneurial drive. Two, I have some, it's a small but some sort of a paycheck, right? So if your income varies during your early startup years, it's a way to supplement and to kind of protect yourself. I hear so much, and it was crazy. I heard a stat the other day that about 4 years from now, 50% of the workforce will have multiple side jobs and side hustles, right? And so it's cool that my side hustle is this. It also comes with a pension at the end.
Definitely. That's a nice side hustle.
But it is neat to have that military foundation, that military career that I've been invested in, allow myself to build the building blocks for
definitely
whatever entrepreneurial things I want to go after.
So. We had a question from the audience earlier about what you learned from pedo tubes that you can apply to leadership. Oh man, that's crazy. So a pedo tube, if you don't know, is the front of the jet. An F-16 especially, we kind of joke they look like lawn darts because they have the pedo tube that sticks out there. That's a very interesting question. Being an old avionics guy, that's something that I worked on. So the pedo tube was responsible for the vast majority of the air data that comes into the jet, right? And then it gives all the sensors inside there and gives the information back to the pilot. So when I think about this, one, what do you learn from leadership? Sometimes you got to stick your nose out there, right? The fetal tube is the first thing that goes in.
Yeah.
And that can be a scary thing sometimes, but having the ability to lead from the front means that the power you have behind you, the F-16 you have behind you, can come in and really provide the great work that's going to accomplish whatever you're trying to do. But also too is that is a data collection point, right? That is we try to in the business world make data driven decisions, right? You can, and in that case, it's a good metaphor to remind you that as you are a leader and you're making these decisions, make sure you have data to back it up.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the instincts, while best intentions, are not right all the time.
Yeah, definitely. So you, in developing those two tandem career paths, you kind of went against this idea that being an entrepreneur means you sell your house, you sell your car, then you sell your left kidney to fund your business, right?
Right.
So how did you make logical, rational, stepwise decisions to say, I'm going to do this, but not forego everything else in the process?
I had a solid base, a solid financial base that I built up over about a 10, 12-year period of a career, right? I didn't have a ton of money, believe me. And the money that I do have invested, it's still, it's nerve-wracking. But that was a cool thing that having that foundation again with the military gave me some income that I was able to put away and know that I was going to use for something like this someday. It is extremely scary to put everything on the line, right? And you don't have to do that all the time, right? There's you can be creative in the way that you finance your dream or your business venture, and one of them is just true savings. Set yourself up that way. Know what you can comfortably spend. Know what you can uncomfortably take in, but still survive. And then know what you can't. Right? Don't put yourself in a position where you're completely downtrodden if everything goes away. So.
Yeah. So how do you make those kinds of risk assessments, right? How do you differentiate between this is equity versus this is a toy that would make me feel better, but not necessary for the business?
Yeah. Again, it goes back a lot to the data, right, and understanding. Even the initial investment into the distillery was based on a lot of data and looking at an emerging industry, looking at trending that was going on, looking at what we had in our local area, what was going on in the state, all those different things. So I would, anytime something is more risky, I'm going to want more data to put behind it. Now, that was kind of tough because in this industry, in the distilling industry, there wasn't a ton of data out there. We see the craft breweries blowing up everywhere, right? And across this nation, there's, I think, over 30,000 craft breweries now. The distilling industry over the past 10 years has went from less than 200 craft distilleries in the entire nation to now we're about 1,200. So it's grown, but that information was not readily available. Most of it was small businesses that didn't really track data. They did well, but it wasn't public knowledge data that was able to share. So you have to take into account a little bit of that risk, knowing that all the pieces are not quite there, but then also have confidence in your team and your partners or whoever you're working with, that whatever pieces are missing, we're going to be able to fill those in order to make our business successful.
Yeah. So you started out when there weren't a lot of them, right? The first one since Prohibition in Fort Wayne.
Correct.
And now you're seeing an explosion in competitors, basically.
Yeah.
How do you keep your competitive edge and keep your niche in light of all these entries?
I got some great mentors in this industry as well, and I look at some of the folks in the craft brewing side. Wayne Stuckey at Matt Anthony's has been a great friend and mentor for me, and you know, you can look at the competition, but you can also look at it collectively as the craft piece is just trying to take a little bit of what the big distillers out there do, right? And that's kind of how I view it. I want to build those relationships with everyone because I think collectively we can learn better from each other, where we're not creating demand, right? So if you're not a drinker and all of a sudden a craft distillery opens up in Fort Wayne, you're not all of a sudden going to start drinking whiskey, right? I'm shifting demand from someone that may be a Jim Beam drinker, and maybe they'll look at a craft spirit, and that's how the craft brewing industry did so well and grew. So I take on the thought process of what collectively, you know, if people are willing to work with us, we want to work with them because we can come up with great ideas to compete for the small portion of that massive distilled spirits market. But on the other hand, you got to know your differentiators, and you got to know why those set you apart, and don't compromise those reasons. You know, we're 100% Indiana grain. You know, our barrels are made right here in Fort Wayne. We have a few differentiators in what we do, and we don't compromise on those. We've had discussions about it. There's different ways we could have produced or could have distributed or different things like that. But we've stuck to our initial morals of what we wanted to do with the company and didn't deviate.
So that's interesting when you talk about all the different the breweries that are coming up and how you kind of want to be on the same team and help each other out and fight against the big brewers.
Yeah.
How do you keep that balance between we're kind of potentially competing for the same clientele, but we're all competing against larger market share companies?
It's relationships, right? I mean, the biggest thing that I've learned in any business environment, whether it be the civilian business or the military side, is the relationships that'll get you there. So we could look at other craft distilleries in Indiana as the competition. And, you know, you take into some account what they're doing. I mean, you see people doing certain things like, oh, man, I wish I would have thought of that. No, there's moments of frustration or anything with anything you do. But having open, honest relationships with people allows that competitiveness to be mutually beneficial, I think. You know what I mean? So I guess that's kind of the way that I'd put that.
What has been the skill that you think has been most beneficial to both of your career paths?
Man, I try to foot stomp this anytime I'm in front of a group of young college students or even high school students I was speaking to a few weeks ago. It's my ability to communicate one-on-one or personally or verbal communication skills. And the reason being is because the way that we go with technology today, I see this now with younger folks that we hire or younger folks getting into the military, that they want to communicate through text messages. They want to communicate through any kind of non-face-to-face function, right? And I've always had the gift of gab, but I've also realized that I can express and maybe convince people a lot better on one-on-one communication. Why it's important, right, is you think about this as college students. You know, you're going to go put all this effort into to school, and then you're going to go out and you want to find a career, right? You want to go chase a career. That career is going to start with a one-on-one meeting where a person is going to determine your worth and value for their company in less than an hour. So if you don't have the ability to demonstrate your worth and value, to demonstrate and communicate your skills and abilities in a one-on-one environment, you're going to be that much further behind. So I've had different changes in careers. I've always had great interviews, and then that's how you influence someone. That's how you earn someone's trust. When you have people working for you, that relationship is key. Know who these people are. Know what makes them tick. Know how to communicate with them. Because there's going to be, I mean, I worked with engineers, right? So I've worked with people that would rather avoid me at all costs than have a conversation with me. And so you talk to those people a little bit different than you talk to a sales staff or a business development type person, you know. So it's understanding your audience, understanding the ability to communicate effectively in that mindset. Because I have yet to see an interview take place over text messages.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah. So if you were going to start working now, like say you were an undergraduate student, and you're working up to, one, know your niche, that you can bring, how you can bring value to an organization, and then two, start working on those interpersonal communication skills. What things could they be doing right now to prepare for that eventual interview?
I had asked the group here earlier who's doing internships. I think internships are key for that type of engagement, to get out there and see how much communication is done, you know, through email, and how much is actually done through meetings and discussions. And even those discussions, those passing discussions you have in the hallway, can have immediate impacts on whatever you're doing the next day. So in order to build those communication skills, get out there, put yourself out there in the workforce, or put yourself out there in volunteer opportunities. Get out there where you are engaging in the day-to-day business and experiencing the communication that's required.
So how would, if any of our students started a side hustle or a internship or any of these other value-adding opportunities, how could they best take those skill sets that they've learned and either apply them elsewhere or brag about them in those one-on-one conversations?
You see, for like at side hustles, like what they can do.
Even if it fails miserably, how can they use that to?
Some will, you know.
Some will. Yeah, that happens.
The biggest thing that I would say about any kind of side hustle or any kind of supplemental income that you're going to have is have a passion for it, right? Because you're already going to have to engage above and beyond your normal vocation, whatever it ends up being. Well, let's say you split it and you're just doing multiple side hustles. Well, guess which one's going to get the most attention? It's going to be the one that you care about the most, the one that you have a passion for. My passion wasn't necessarily for distilled spirits, which is kind of crazy. It was for growing a business. I wanted to know, could I take all of these skills that I learned in my undergraduate, my master's degree, could I go and grow a business? And so that's what this venture was. And so I had a passion for doing that. Have a passion for it, because then when you have those conversations and interviews or different interactions, even in your main vocation, your passion will come through. And what that says to a manager or a CEO or something in the company is that this person is passionate about what they do.
Yeah,
I want to make them passionate about what we do.
I do. Yeah.
But they have passion inside them. So I would say just make sure that you don't pursue something just for the money. Pursue something for the passion.
Yeah. So you have a job, and then you have another job, and you have a family, right? How do you balance that? How do you prioritize and make those kind of something has to give decisions? Yeah.
I know what my priorities are. I also go to church and am very involved in my church, and my priorities go with my church and my family first, right? And so I have great communication with my wife, and we talk about almost anything that we tackle. You know, she also has a side hustle on top of her normal job, so we are a busy family.
Yeah, busy family.
But we make sure that we center ourselves around that first. Then when you get down to it, for me, it's where am I passionate at? Where do I want to invest the time? Where do I have relationships that mean a lot to me? I can say chasing money never really is a big driver, because eventually you achieve the money and you want more money, or you don't achieve the money and then you just feel like the disappointment. So when I prioritize whatever events I'm doing, it's what am I passionate about? I love serving my country. I love the military. So if the military asks me to do something like go to Afghanistan for the summer, which was a terrible vacation spot, I'm going to prioritize that and I'm going to go.
Yeah.
but also the distillery. If we got great events coming up and there's ways that I can help or there's ways that I can engage, I love telling the story of what we've done, what our team does, and continuing to grow that. So what you can find is you can budget time for almost anything. You just got to get rid of all of the other noise that's out
the
there.
fillers. Yeah. Definitely.
It's crazy to see, like I think the iPhone newest update, it tells you how much screen time you have.
Yeah, it does.
A week, and it's like every Sunday you're like, oh man, what am I doing with my life? Like that's terrible.
Yeah.
And think about if you just had that time back, or if you found other ways to be efficient with your time. I had somebody tell me one time, never eat lunch alone, and that has resulted in a lot of great opportunities for me because you just find someone to eat lunch with. Is it a coworker? So you get to know them better, right? You build that relationship. Is it a potential new business venture? Yep, you get to do that. Come here and talk to folks. What is whose lives do you influence? Who do you change? So that's one that I always hold true: is never eat lunch alone.
Yeah. Well, it's really insightful, like we were talking about earlier, the collection of data, right?
Yeah.
If you don't know, or if you're blissfully ignorant, you can never look at that and say, "Oh, wow, that's not doing very good," or not as good as I thought, right?
Yeah.
Well, super. Well, now's my favorite time of the show, which is our rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And so we're just going to go down here. I'm going to ask you a question, and you just answer the first thing that comes to your mind.
Oh, okay. That's
and then we'll edit in post production. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Best book you've ever read?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, I mean, I know people would say it's a cop out, but it's true. The Bible to me has been the biggest influencer on my life. I would say right next to that is one that I'm reading with my daughter right now. Where the Sidewalk Ends, Shel Silverstein, collection of poetry, and that's something that like impacted me from a little child, and I continue to share that.
Yep, I did the same thing with my kids. So.
Yep.
Yeah, good choice. Good choice. Favorite dessert?
Oh, cheesecake, hands down. Yep.
Why does that go well with?
Anything. I'll eat cheesecake
that's
breakfast.
Fair.
I don't care.
Anything from your stock in
Yeah, we
particular?
do a bourbon salted caramel cheesecake.
Okay,
it goes
there you
well
go.
with bourbon, but I love cheesecake.
Excellent. Any pets?
I have one dog. His name is Jaeger. He's a Boston Terrier. He's 16 years old, and I'm glad he can't talk because he has more stories on me than probably anyone else in the world.
That's fair. That's fair. Not yet, anyway. Favorite sport?
Football. College football.
Team?
Purdue.
Okay.
Yep.
Purdue fans?
Man, it's a good weekend this weekend.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, good for you. Favorite place to vacation? Afghanistan's not on the list.
Yeah, it's definitely not on the list. Surprisingly enough, Holland, Michigan is my favorite place to go. I've been to Hawaii. I've been to beaches in Florida. I've been to Jamaica. I've been all over the world, right? Spain, all this stuff. Holland, Michigan to me is my favorite place. Best beaches, best kind of like family time. Plus you can go find some fun stuff to do. Awesome place.
Yeah. Morning person or night owl?
Probably a morning person now. I was more of a night owl growing up.
Forced to,
kind of forced to be a morning person now.
Yeah, definitely.
Coffee helps.
Yeah, definitely. Favorite holiday?
Oh, Thanksgiving. I love to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I really enjoy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, all the different foods.
Favorite spirit for Thanksgiving?
Bourbon.
Okay. I've seen a trend here.
Yeah.
A skill you need for your job that you didn't expect you would need?
Well, probably on both sides is the financial understanding and financial management stuff. I would say the classes that I probably coasted through in my undergrad and graduate were financial management and accounting, because I was just like, man, I just want to get through these. And I really wish I would have studied that more. But those are skills that I was like, I don't probably really need them. Yeah, I definitely need them.
Yeah. What do you do to relax at home?
Oh, just be outside with my girls. We ride 4-wheelers around, play on the play set, just anything I can do. We have a fire pit, sit outside. That's my time to recharge, taking fresh air, get out and run.
Place you want to go that you've never been to?
Oh, Australia. I want to go scuba diving on the Great Barrier Reef. I love sharks, and kids love sharks. And
good, yeah.
Yeah, I want to
wrestle some sharks.
I want to go down there and see some sharks.
Your biggest pet peeve?
I can say grammar sometimes because like
The PR,
like,
right? Yeah.
yeah. No, disorder is probably my biggest pet peeve, and it's actually something that I am doing everything I possibly can to learn how to accept. But I'm a very orderly person.
Mhm.
My wife is not. She's completely the opposite. We both still get the job done,
Yeah.
whatever it ends up being. But after 7 years of marriage, I am learning to give up some of that.
Mhm.
But I still like my office at work. Either place, everything has a place that's in order.
Yeah.
So I like everything orderly.
Okay. Well, don't look at my desk then.
Yeah.
You'll get mad. If an actor were to play you in a movie, who would it be?
Shoot. Man, Tom Hanks. Who wouldn't want Tom Hanks to
Hanks.
play him, right?
Yeah.
That guy plays some of the most iconic roles that we've had, at least in my
Yeah, especially if
generation.
you want to survive a disaster.
Yeah, that pretty
known
much
for
covers
that.
everything.
Yeah, that's his role. And any piece of last advice you'd want to give our students here or listening?
You know, I've handled this before, but just understand how important communication is and be good at it. Any form of communication is going to set you apart from your peers. I really emphasize the verbal communication skills because I think that they are degrading in the technologically advanced environment that we have. But being able to send an efficient email, an efficient text message, an efficient Snapchat, however you communicate, be good at it, because your leaders that you will work for or the people that will work for you are going to be very appreciative of efficient and effective communication. That's a big thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Well, good. Aaron, thanks very much for joining us today.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
We'll see you next week.